All right, welcome everybody. We are recording a webinar on leading and engaging virtual teams, cutting edge solutions to attracting, engaging, and managing remote workers. And it is actually early October, and I'm here with Kevin Sheridan. We realize I'm in Houston, Kevin's in Chicago, and I'm in my home office, and I just so happen to have a Walter Payton and Earl Campbell picture. So it's kind of, uniting us, bringing us together here. But what a important topic we're talking about right now. If you've never been virtual before, you probably have been virtual over the last few months. And if you've never managed a virtual team, there's a high likelihood that you are doing so now. So this is a really important topic. And when we thought about having this topic, I've actually seen Kevin speak at a couple of conferences, and he's the first person who popped to my mind. And when I wanted to bring this topic to everybody, I reached out to him, and I'm so glad that he is going to talk to us about this today. So let me introduce Kevin. I'm not going to, hopefully, Kevin, you're okay that I don't have your entire bio memorized. So I will be reading it, but forgive me for that because it is impressive. So Kevin Sheridan is an internationally recognized keynote speaker, a New York Times bestselling author, and one of the most sought after voices in the world on the topic of employee engagement. For 5 years running, he has been honored on Inc. magazine's top 101 leadership speakers in the world, as well as Inc.'s top 101 experts on employee engagement. He was also honored to be named to the Employee Engagement Awards top 100 global influencers on employee engagement for 3 consecutive years, as well as being designated as a senior fellow at the conference board. So after having spent 30 years as a high-level human capital management consultant, Kevin has helped some of the world's largest corporations rebuild a culture that fosters productive engagement, earning him several distinctive awards and honors. Kevin's premier creation, Peer, has been consistently recognized as a long overdue industry-changing innovation in the world of employee engagement. His first book, Building a Magnetic Culture, made 6 of the bestseller lists, including the New York Times, Wall Street Journal, and USA Today. And he is the author of The Virtual Manager, which explores how to most effectively manage remote workers. And that's the topic we're going to be talking about today. So I'm going to put my camera down. I'm going to give the floor over to Kevin, and we'll take it from here. All right. Thanks for being here, Kevin.
Thanks so much, Keith. I'm excited to present to your audience. And I am kind of laughing out loud about this very topic and the fact that I wrote a book called The Virtual Manager 12 years ago. I have friends calling me saying, "Are you prescient? How did you know this was going to happen?" And as much as I'd like to say that I'm the soothsayer and I can see the future, I never anticipated that you would have, on one 24-hour period, a couple 100 million people suddenly thrust into the virtual world and become virtual workers. So this book that I wrote, The Virtual Manager, has never been more relevant. My phone is ringing off the hook because companies are realizing that they need to train their workers on how to be the best remote workers. They need to train their managers on how to be the best virtual managers. And then unfortunately for those companies that are having to downsize, and there are quite a few that are facing that, I train on how to use the right criteria to decide who is let go so that they are let go in a fair and equitable fashion. So let's take a look at the agenda today. By the way, I'm a high altitude mountaineer. It's one of my passions outside of work. I'm doing an athletic journey that I began about 18 years ago called the 7 Summits. It's to climb the highest mountain on every continent, and I've actually done 5. This is my last climb in Russia, which was on Mount Elbrus, which is actually the highest mountain in Europe. So today I'm going to be what they call in Nepal your Sardar, that's the chief Sherpa, and I'm going to take you to the summit of virtual management, and most importantly, get you down safely so that you and your team can experience world-class engagement, whether remote or on site. And incidentally, 80% of the accidents in mountaineering happen on the way down. So that's when you need to really be focused on that journey. So we're going to talk about what is virtual work, what are the benefits of virtual work, the importance of re-interviewing these people that are suddenly remote workers, and we'll talk in specifics about what should be talked about in that re-interview process. I'm going to show you the virtual drivers of engagement for virtual workers. I'm going to teach you best practices on those drivers. Are these photos amazing? We had a National Geographic photographer on our climb in Russia, and that was just incredible to have these photos shared with us. Then we're going to talk about what Keith mentioned, PEER, the Personal Employee Engagement Report, which we invented about 20 years ago, completely redid the mapping of engagement, and it completely made the engagement solution a shared ownership, as opposed to an employee saying, I filled the employee survey out, you need to do this, and then I'll become engaged. That's what I call conditional engagement. And much like conditional love, it's not healthy, and frankly, it doesn't work. And then we'll talk about some final thoughts and takeaways. I'm big into social media. I highly encourage you, if you want a copy of this presentation, feel free to email me. There's my email, Kevin@Sheridan LLC. I'm going to be making reference to several resources that are available from my website, which you see there. Download them. They're completely free. You are going to want to use that great information and advice. I also blog. I've never had more fun blogging. A recent one that you'll want to take a look at, particularly because it's so funny, is Zoom calls gone wrong. And it's all the things that can go wrong on a Zoom call, not the least of which is having your partner walk through the living room behind you in their underwear, which there's one of those on the video as well. I tweet regularly. And so if you want to connect with me on LinkedIn or Twitter, that's my information. So all good. Roughly 63 million people are currently working remotely in the United States alone. Let's take a look at what the big benefits are for employers who let people work remotely and what the benefits are of virtual work from the employee perspective. First of all, employers. It makes it a lot easier to attract top talent. You're going to have more satisfied customers. They're going to have 24/7, 365 coverage worldwide. People aren't commuting, so there's a reduced carbon footprint, relates to CSR, corporate social responsibility, which is incredibly prized by millennials and Gen Z. Those of you that don't know who Gen Z is, I blogged about it. It's in my blog. You're not alone. So many people don't understand who Gen Z is. In fact, there are 15 different names for that generation. Globals, digital natives. So one day, the world become much more educated on who Gen Z is and what their drivers are. They are not millennials. And in fact, the blog I did on this showed the distinctive differences between Gen Z and millennials, completely different generation. And of course, lower real estate costs. As the author of The Virtual Manager, people are asking me, is our future workplace changed forever? Absolutely. Companies that went through this pandemic and realized that virtual work makes sense and is less costly, they're not going to go back to a corporate location, and they're going to do what IBM did years ago and said, just stay home. We don't want you coming to work. They saved $600 million right to the bottom line when they told their virtual workers, this is way before the pandemic, stay home, 25%, $600 million right to the bottom line. So that's a reality of our future in workplaces. For employees, greater flexibility and control. You know, one of the benefits of this pandemic is parenting. I think it's wonderful that fathers and mothers who used to go to a corporate work location, they're able to spend more time with their kids. There's less stress and burnout, which is the #1 reason people quit. #1 reason people resign is job stress and burnout. Less burnout because there's no commuting, greater work-life balance, greater wellness. I said, what better time to be a wellness consultant or a personal trainer? What worse time to be a commercial real estate broker? And then, of course, there are cost savings through less costs for gas and train fares and what have you. So what percent of all employees who have worked remotely say that they were more productive? Big time. Here's your choices: 33, 81, 23%, or 93. Well, you know what? I will reveal the answer. 81% of all employees that have worked remotely said that they were more productive. That is significant. Can anyone guess what the thief of productivity is at a company site? I know what it is. It is interruptions. How many times on average are people that go to a corporate site interrupted each day? 5 times, 12 times, or 60 times? You guessed it, 60 times a day. Hey, how was your date last night? Did you see the movie? You know, let's have lunch. It happens a lot. That is the thief of productivity. 82% of all Fortune best places to work have allowances for working from home. Virtual workers actually are proven to put more hours in than their non-virtual counterparts. Gallup came out with that research. Great research. 4 hours, more hours each week for a virtual worker. Out-of-office workers are more engaged, 32 versus 28%. And then lastly, the lion's share of recruiters say, absolutely, it's much easier to attract and retain top talent and recruit top talent when there are work from home benefits that can be offered to those new employees. You know who this guy is. I wish I would have put this in my book, but during the nuclear disarmament with Mikhail Gorbachev right to his right side, you know what he said. And this is chapter 2 of my book, which is the bedrock of a successful virtual manager, virtual worker experience. Starts with a T, trust. That is the secret to success. And when he went to the podium, he said, I hope I don't mess this up. He said, Dovaprai, novovaprai, which means trust, but verify. You as a virtual manager should do just that. Give your virtual workers the freedom to succeed, the correct amount of autonomy, but check up on them. Check on the outcomes. Are you getting the outcomes that you expected? If you're not, you want to put that virtual worker on a performance plan. And if they continue not to improve being a virtual worker, you will go to the T solution, which is termination or transition. Some of these people don't want to work virtually. That's one more reason you need to have an interview, a re-interview of these people. Ask them, do you like working from home? What do you have? I mean, so many companies just fell into this remote workplace thing and they never even took the time to ask the virtuous, hey, do you have a desk? What's your setup at home? What are you using for your internet connection? And do you have the most up-to-date cell phone? And this is all can be discussed during this re-interview process. Accountability is ensuring that people are successfully completing the things you want them to do, yet you're giving them the freedom to succeed in their job. It's not enough that the remote employee focus on the rigor and activity, but rather completion. Did they complete the activities or the outcomes you wanted, and did they do so with great success? Trust is the most important part. You know, when you look at it, these people that are working remotely, they're pretty insecure. You know, will my employer remember me when it comes time for promotions? If the economy continues to dip because of the pandemic, will I be the first to be let go? Does my manager recognize my key contributions? Recognition is the #1 driver of engagement for both people that go to a work site as well as virtual managers. How about my coworkers? Do they see me as a coworker and a valuable member of the team? These are all very natural questions. Employee engagement really has a threefold definition. Employees who are engaged feel a strong emotional and intellectual bond to their organization. They're ready to exert extra effort in their jobs. Pardon me. And they're willing to own their own engagement. They're not pointing to the manager saying, you need to do this and now I'll become more engaged. They own it themselves, which is pretty significant. I can't say enough great things about virtual workers. They're loyal. They're self-motivated. They're committed to quality. They're passionate about what they do. They get a lot of their engagement from their job content. They're natural optimists. They're supportive of their coworkers. They're an inspiration for others. They're naturally positive people. They're oriented to providing great customer service. Work ethic is in their DNA. You know those moments in your job when there's Johnny on the spot or Mary on the spot, you need someone to help you out? They are there in a flash, much like this guy. I kid you not. This is my 12-year-old Labradoodle. Every single time the doorbell is rung, Max is right to the door, despite the fact that not once it's ever been for him. Engaged virtual workers act in the same unselfish way. They are ready to help their coworker in a flash. Let's take a look at the metrics on engagement. First thing that you look at when you see this engagement pie chart is, wow, only 27%. This is what the data as I published it with my New York Times bestseller, Building a Magnetic Culture. And if you get either of my books, get them through my website, and that way you'll get them as a discount, but more importantly, I get to sign them for you. And I'm happy to do that. So has this gone up? Well, yeah, it went up. Pre-pandemic, Gallup reported engagement levels at 38% engaged. Not even half. This tells you, much like climbing one of these mountains, how difficult it is to reach world-class engagement. You know, 38%, so that was pre-pandemic. And I just did a blog about how engagement since the pandemic has come about has plummeted. The largest single drop in engagement from 38% to 31% in history since Gallup began tracking engagement all the way back in 1980. That's when they began tracking it. So it currently stands at 31%, not very high. It's really, really tough. Ambivalent, I don't know how many of you have watched the AMC show, The Walking Dead. It's about zombies that, you know, just kind of roam the earth, biting other people and turning them into zombies. Yeah, these are your workplace dead. I won't call them the Walking Dead. I'll call them the workplace dead. They need to be resuscitated. They're not exerting any extra effort at all. So what do? I'm going to give you 3 takeaways for how to manage this 60%, because this is really the cost of having not having them engaged. It's significant, 60%. So one of the signs of engagement, as I said before, is willingness to exert extra effort. You know, these people in the middle category, they're not going to volunteer at all. So maybe you need to volunteer them. Keith, you're on the committee. Here's what the mission of the committee. We expect great things from you. You will give us an update at our next staff meeting. Thank you, Keith. So by volunteering them, you're re-engaging them. Second takeaway or way that you can resuscitate your working dead, give them a mentor who's fully engaged. You're going to watch mentorship and engagement spill off. Have that mentor meet with them once a week. How's it going? What's engaging you? What's disengaging you? What are you passionate about? Maybe I can give you more of that. That's the second way to resuscitate your workplace zombies. Third way, they're in the wrong job. Half of these people are in the wrong job. They're not doing a job that they can get passionate about. If you haven't picked up on this, I love what I do. I love teaching people. I am passionate about what I do, but I've even thought ahead that maybe this might get old. Maybe I don't want to do these podcasts or webinars or travel again. And I've thought ahead to my next career. Don't laugh. I grew up in northern Wisconsin. When you grew up in northern Wisconsin, you grew up on country music. And I've actually just completed, I was just in Scottsdale, Arizona for the last week, and I completed my first country music song. I wrote it on the flight out there. How much fun. It's about getting older. If any of you would like a copy of that song, it's pretty hysterical. Send me an email, kevin@kevinsheridanllc.com, and I'm about to begin writing my second country music song. So the disengaged, these are very, very toxic employees. They're gossip mongers. They're acting water cooler. They're bad mouthing you. They're bad mouthing your mission. The only solution for that population, transition. Get them completely out of your organization. because they are cancerous, full of negative energy. So pretty significant. What does disengagement look like? You'll never get to work on time. Ha, ha, ha. I mean, who would create a sign like that? A disengaged employee. My boss told me to change the stupid sign, so I did. Would you drop by that gas station? No. You drive right by and it's like, that is the cost of disengagement. And my favorite visual of disengagement speaks volumes to the willingness to exert extra effort in your job. Are you kidding me? Get out of the truck and move the lawn, for real. I had a guy at a conference. I do international conferences. I've spoken all over the world. And one of the speeches I gave in Australia had a guy come up to me. He goes, I love your log picture, but I can one-up it. I said, what is it? He goes, I'll send it to you. And he did. Essentially, it's the same thing, except it's roadkill. Are you kidding me? I laughed so hard when he said that to me. I mean, the person probably is wearing the orange boots. Just kick the animal out of the way before you paint the line. I just thought that was hysterical. So now, as promised, what are the most common outcomes that come with employee engagement? Look at these metrics. These are all proven. And I've cited the sources. I didn't make this stuff up. Harvard Business Review, 300% more innovation, higher retention, Gallup, higher sales, less burnout, which, as I said before, #1 reason people quit. You know how much the economy, the American economy, the cost of turnover, according to Gallup, $550 billion each year. Significant. Much lower to absenteeism, which costs the average American employer $2,400 per employee per year. You do the math, that's significant. A lot less turnover, higher productivity, and higher profitability. And those are the metrics there. You know, I look at that lady in the picture and I'm kind of saddened because former client of mine, New York City, kind of the Marshall Fields of New York City, Century 21, and I just saw a couple weeks ago they filed for bankruptcy. Needless to say, the pandemic hurt them a lot. So shout out to my friends at Century 21. Cost of disengagement, voluntary turnover. This is frankly, my favorite survey question. If you're not asking a question like this in your survey, do. Here's the normative data for it. I've thought of resigning. 28% of the people say, yes, I've thought of resigning. What are the reasons? This is pre-pandemic. Other stress. I've told you this 3 times now. #1 reason people leave. I do the focus groups. I still do focus groups, bringing confidentiality to employee focus groups. #1 reason people resign, job stress. Well, you know what? Has it gone up? It's gone up significantly. Just the sheer uncertainty. You know, I picked up the Wall Street Journal a month ago and I read 3 vaccines show great promise. And I turned the page. Leading experts say pandemic could go on for years. It's like, what is it? You know how that uncertainty fosters stress? It's significant. Then you have, of course, you know, the looming election, regardless of what side you're on. You have the protests, you know, and the significant impact that the George Floyd killing happened on our society and other events like that. It's only increasing job stress. Then you have the second reason people resign, pay. It's not the level of pay, it's when people find out that they're not being paid fairly. Then you have the third reason for resignation, the manager. I'm sure many of you have heard the old adage, people don't leave companies, they leave managers. Oh, is that true? Well, when you look at those top 3 reasons for resignation, they blend into one thing, the manager. And Gallup has done great research about this. It's all about the manager. If you hire a manager that's disengaged, they're 3 times more likely to be leading a work group that's disengaged. Who, after all, should be saying, you know, you look stressed out. I'd like you to take the rest of the day off. Go relax. It's the manager. Who, after all, should say, you know, I noticed I did a salary survey and I noticed that you're not being paid fairly. I'm going to bat for you. I'm going to get you a rate. Who, after all, needs to show that they care about their employee, not as a clog in the wheel of productivity, but as a human being, to look at that person and care about what they have going on in their life outside of work, to care. Put the human back into human resources. What's the cost of disengagement? Well, you know, it's significant. Typical organization spends 5 times more money to attract a new customer than retain a repeat customer. What does this tell you? Hang on to your customers. It will cost you a lot when you lose them. One happy customer will tell on average 5 other people about their experience. Wow, they become your marketing department. 5 others learn about the compliment of your brand. Conversely, 1 unhappy customer will tell 10 other people about how awful a company you are or awful the customer service. They in turn will tell 5 other people. You're up to 60 people that are trashing your brand. Multiply that times your average purchase price. That's significant. Very, very significant. United Brakes Guitars. I'm coming up on 2 million miles on United, and it's just hysterical because I go around the world trashing their brand because they deserve it. This tells the story of a musician out of Halifax, Nova Scotia, who had a gig in Lincoln, Nebraska, flew through my hometown in Chicago and watched the baggage handler throw his musical equipment all over the place. And sure enough, his guitar was broken when he got to Lincoln, Nebraska. So Keith, thanks so much for letting me know the video sound was not working. And I do want your listeners to enjoy this. It's a very entertaining video. Again, if you want to copy the presentation, email me, happy to send it to you. But the link to this video is listed on this slide at the very bottom. Go enjoy United Brakes Guitars. We'll skip the other videos, but I'll show you the link. And now let's dive right into what are the drivers of engagement for virtual workers. Here are the top 10. Now, did these come from something that I did randomly? No, I turned to my chief information officer and my chief research specialist at my old company, HR Solutions, because we did the ubiquitous employee engagement survey. We were sitting at 3 million surveys that had been done in the last 3 years. And I said, Murat, I want you to run a key driver analysis. I want to know in order of importance, if I want to move the dial on employee engagement for virtual workers, what button should I be pressing and which one should I be pressing first? Top of the list, recognition. Number 2, career development. Number 3, the manager. And much like I said before, it's all about the manager. Who, after all, should be saying thank you? It's the manager. Who, after all, should be saying, Keith, I care about your career here. Let's have a dialogue about where you want to be in 6 months and how I can help you get there. We're going to cover some of the best practices on those top drivers, not the least of which is communication. Establish the right remote architecture, if you will. During your re-interview of your new people, ask them, you know, tell me about your personal engagement devices, your phone, do you have Skype? Do you have Zoom? What do you need? How's your computer? What's your internet connection? All of that great stuff. Ensure that they have the right remote architecture. During the re-interview, what's working for them remotely, what's not working, and let's fix it. One of the best things I ever heard was one of my marketing employees came to me one day and said, hey, we want to ask a question during our re-interview process, which is kind of unique. Can we ask them, what's your favorite candy? And I said, Ashley, I said, that is an unusual question. Why are you going to ask them? Well, during this re-interview process, you might find out that they really like Reese's Peanut Butter Cup. Why not mail them one? Is that awesome? Let them enjoy a virtual suite. And better yet, mail one to their coworkers so that during their next Zoom call, they all can enjoy a Reese's Peanut Butter Cup. It's called the Candy Question. It's been done by thousands of organizations worldwide, all because of my great marketing employee, Ashley, who came up with that idea. Number 1 driver, recognition. There is a desert of thank yous out there. First best practice is determine, do people want to be formally recognized in front of their peers, big shout outs, or did they just want the private, hey, you did a great job on that? I was horrified one day when one of my more introverted employees came up to me and said, hey, you know, I know you give me big shout outs at our staff meeting, but I kind of get embarrassed. You know, if you could just, I was horrified. So from then on out, it was just a private, hey, Nicole, great job. Tailor the recognition efforts. Get your senior leadership involved. You know, little thank you notes from your president or your CEO, fantastic. Why not? Encourage coworker recognition, peer recognition. It's more powerful than you think. Pandora, the internet radio, they have a worldwide ticker tape. So Ahmed in Saudi Arabia can give a shout out to Mary in New York. Mary, you just helped me out so much with that project recently. Thank you. Set up a platform. One of my favorite Zig Ziglar quotes, you need to make sure that you're consistent. People often say that motivation does not last. Well, neither does bathing. That's why we recommend it on a daily basis. How do you do this? I used to have all the best intentions regarding recognition, but I'd forget. So what I'm going to give you is a best practice to make recognition inescapable. Put it in your Outlook calendar. Every Friday afternoon, I'd get a pop-up message from Outlook saying, Kevin, go recognize. And I'd spend the next hour and a half walking around my office and recognizing the best employees. And one other important best practice is don't recognize average. Don't reward mediocrity. Only recognize those people that have gone above and beyond. Now, I'm also going to give you the how of powerful recognition. Thank you. Yeah, that's nice, but it only buys you 20% of the value. Here's your 3-part recipe to get the full value. Let's say Keith did a great job on a project. I'm going to say, Keith, I noticed what you did. You really did a great job on that project. Now I want to explain to you, Keith, why what you did is so intrinsically important to this organization. He's going to get it in his head. I'm going to do it again. I am going to do it again. Awesome. Now let's celebrate what you did. This is one that really, if you take the time to find out, you know, where does Keith live and find out what's the ubiquitous family-owned Italian restaurant in his town, and call them up and get a gift certificate and send it to Keith saying, hey, here's something tangible. Take your family to dinner. Keith's going to say, not only do I feel rewarded, but Kevin took the time to find out what the best restaurant was in my hometown. How awesome is that? Really cool. What are some ideas for recognition for virtual workers? E-cards, nominations for reward for remote work, FaceTime, regular face-to-face interaction via Zoom or Skype. Always make a conscious effort to sprinkle recognition and praise into both emails as well as staff meetings if they prefer that type of recognition. What are not recognition ideas for virtual workers? A paycheck, a turkey and a ham, everyone gets one. Birthday parties virtually, boring. Casual dress, we already have it. You know, I might be in my pajamas when I'm at work virtually, and that's okay. Drawings or lotteries for a few lucky winners. You don't want to leverage any of those. They don't work. At some point, I want you to watch this video. We're not going to watch it now. It is awesome. It is about a little boy named Titus, makes some pretty incredible basketball shots. When you watch this video, and that's the link below, I want you to watch the way he's recognized by his coworkers who happen to be his parents and his siblings. It's pretty awesome. Make sure you have a platform in place to leverage that peer-to-peer recognition like Titus has in this video. Job content is absolutely critical. You saw it on the list of drivers. Never try to teach a pig to sing, waste your time, and it annoys the pig. It annoys the pig. So true. Give people jobs that they want. Let them think about what their passion is. Absolutely. And you know, I had so much fun writing my first country music song. Let people share what their passion is and let them do that in their job. This lady is a very special friend of mine. She's affectionately known as Ms. Betty. You will find her in Metairie, New Orleans at the flagship hospital for Ochsner Health System. She used to be a janitor and not a very good one. Why? She'd be leaning on her map, talking to people. Very social, very social. Floors weren't getting mopped because she was talking to people. So she was recast by her boss into the role of greeter. So if you walk into that flagship hospital in Metairie, New Orleans, Miss Betty is going to greet you at the door, and she's probably going to hug you. I watched her for about a half an hour, and amazing lady. She hugged. Where are you going? Oh, oncology. That's on the 5th floor. Let me take you there. Escorts them to the elevator. She's all about flair, like Jennifer Aniston in Office Space, that awesome movie, which if you haven't seen it and care about engagement, rent it. It is incredible. All those little buttons that Jennifer Aniston wore, it's all about flair. Well, ever since I put her in my book, and the local paper put my book and the story of Miss Betty in the local paper, all these people kept showing up at the hospital with pins, flair for Miss Betty. She said to me, she goes, Mr. Sheridan, I got so much flair, I can't wear my jacket anymore. Is that awesome? She is a dear, dear friend of mine. One of the best messages that I ever had on my voicemail, she said, Mr. Sheridan, you've had a profound influence on my life. I miss you. I love you. I love you too, Miss Betty. I love you too. How awesome is that? Pretty cool. I used to have a virtual cocktail hour with my my redheaded Irish grandmother. She, like any Irish grandmother, at 5 to 5, she'd say, hey, pour me a scotch. It's almost cocktail hour. And during these cocktail hours, she would impart her wisdom. She, I know you're only 16, but go ahead and pour yourself a scotch. Yeah, I did. And she never told my parents, but she helped me out in my career, my life. I had to work in a septic tank for a week. I threw up 3 times before I could even get in the septic tank. It was Graham's advice that got me through that week. I'm sure many of you face some dark days and some tough days at work. I want to give you Graham's advice that'll make you get through those. And her first piece of advice, keep moving. Momentum is your best friend. Significant. One hand washes the other. At any given moment, I'm helping 15 people with a job search. I don't expect anything in return. I do it because it's the right thing to help people. And you know how rewarding it is when I help someone seize that new job and get employment so they can provide for their family? It's enriching. It warms my heart. That's my great grandma Rita, my daughters, and that's one of them there. That's her grandchild, great granddaughter. How beautiful is that? Just for me to think that they got to know her was really, really special. One hand washes the other. It's all about one thing, as I said before, it's all about the manager. Great managers hold themselves accountable. They clearly communicate their expectations. And they use the 3 most impactful workplace phrases. Thank you. Number 1 on the list, recognition. I don't know. It's okay to say I don't know as a manager, and I'm sorry. Sometimes we all make mistakes. We might raise our voice. Apologize for it. If you do something wrong or mistreat someone or make a mistake, just say, I'm sorry. That was my bad, and it's never going to happen again. Great managers conduct regular performance discussions as opposed to the once-a-year performance review. Great managers are using the management checklist that I created, which is in the resources part of my website. Download it. These are things that managers should be doing every month. They put it in their monthly tickler file. Download the employee engagement checklist. This is for employees so they can begin doing things to influence their own engagement. Not the least of which is getting a private report called PEER, the Employee Performance Engagement Report. I mean, how awesome is that? Make sure that engagement and a dialogue about it is part of your performance management discussions, and then use the best boss exercise. Very simply, what is that? Think about who your best boss was over the course of your career. Who was your best boss? And then dedicate yourself to writing down the 3 qualities that made them your best boss, and then aspire to become someone else's best boss. be someone's best boss, not their worst boss. Significant. The missing driver of engagement is fun. I had more fun working with an incredible organization, Radio Flyer. Amazing. Yes, they make a pretty great scooter and a great red wagon, but what they're most known for is they create smiles. When I saw my daughter, look at this business card. That's the head of human resources going down a hill in the wagon. How awesome is that? Yeah, they want to make great red wagons, but you know what their mission is with Radio Flyer? They want to make people smile. That is their mission. So when I saw my daughter put her little guinea pig in a little Radio Flyer wagon, that's Hannah, I'm like, oh boy, I got to take her picture. I sent it to Amy. She said, Kevin, we're going to put Hannah's picture up on a wall of smiles. And she did it. She is up on a wall with thousands of smiles that Radio Flyer has created all over the world. How awesome is that? Other ideas for leveraging fun and humor in the virtual workplace: have a virtual happy hour, have a virtual yoga practice, have team-based trivia contests. One of the things that I've tried doing, and I just blogged about it, what saddens me most about this pandemic is the people that really deserved to get hit the least got hit the worst. Women, minorities, veterans, Native Americans. I just, it really, really saddened me. So I try giving back. I will tell you, I've been very, very proud that for the last 15 months, I have been the big brother to a 9-year-old triracial, disadvantaged young man named Tristan. And, I went into this big brother relationship with the intention of giving back, and I have. But I'll tell you, I get as much out of it as I put into it. I'm out on a football field and I'm designing plays like I used to do with my brothers at age 12. And Tristan and I just have a blast. During this pandemic, we kept our relationship going. We played virtual chess. We played virtual Monopoly. Why not? And I just grown to really, really love this young man. And I've definitely tried my patience. Patience has not necessarily been a virtue for me, but with Tristan, I just am patient. You want to talk about trying my patience? Take a 9-year-old kid with ADD into an ice cream store that sells 45 flavors. 20 minutes later, I'm like, Tris, that caramel colossus kind of looks good. Finally, he made his choice. Oh, have fun with this. Have fun. I did focus groups for company outside of Chicago, and somebody had put a sign up on the workplace fridge that said there's a new workplace trend going on. People are actually naming the food they put in the company fridge. I just ate a tuna sandwich named Kevin. No, you just stole someone's lunch. How awesome is that? We need more levity. Go back and think about the number one reason people resign: stress. What better medicine than fun? Let's have more fun. We can learn from our children. The average 5-year-old laughs 111 times a day. The average person over 44 years old, 11 times a day. That's terrible. We need more laughter. Why not create a personal fact sheet like this young woman on my marketing team? I said, yeah, do one for every employee in the company. When did they start? Where are they from? Where do they currently live? What are their favorite TV shows? What are the fun trivia facts? What do you think I did when next time I saw Christina in the hallway? I said, I want to see the Jack Black eyebrow roll. We need more fun. Why don't you create these for each of your employees? Put them up in your break room so we all get to know each other, not on a professional level alone, on a personal level, which makes a big, big difference. Make a workplace video happiness video. Get your senior leaders involved in that video. It works. It makes a big difference. And then lastly, as I promised, we need to correct the imbalance between having managers be the sole owner of the employees as opposed to having employees waiting to be engaged. The way we can do that: encourage your people to take a confidential self-assessment on their own engagement. Peer, what I created, which was industry changing and revolutionary, no longer exists. Why the company that bought me out took that off the web, I don't know. So I helped a competitor create one. Go to that site, the Modern Survey, Individual Engagement Survey. You can take it for free. It's not only going to give you a confidential report as to which bucket of engagement you fall in. And of course, yes, there's engagement inflation. People think they're more engaged than they are. But more importantly, that private report will give you advice on where you have a dearth of engagement, what you can do to help improve your own engagement. It also encourages you to set yourself up to get recognition in career planning. So instead of playing the victim and saying, oh, my manager never recognizes my performance, blah, 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 victimhood. It's going to say, okay, we understand your manager may not be quick to recognize you, but why don't you put a list of things together that you got done that week and go get your recognition. Hey, boss, I want to keep you in the loop. Here are the 10 things that I did this week that I accomplished. Did anything stand out? Instead of playing the victim and saying, my manager has never talked to me about my career. What manager wouldn't want to have their employees say, hey, can we meet this Friday? I want to get feedback on what I could do to be an even better employee and talk to you about what my next career promotion might be. Awesome. Don't be a victim. I also think that people that don't attend senior leadership brown bag lunches or webinars or town hall meetings, I think those people give up their right to complaining out the window. Get involved. Ask for and act on feedback. Regularly check in with yourself. Now we're going to go back to the 60% in the middle category, the working dead. Half of those people are in the wrong job. Now, Miss Betty luckily had a boss to realize that she was in the wrong job. That doesn't mean you can't recognize it for yourself. On my website, in the resources section, download the list of reflective statements or questions. You might get 5 of the 20 questions in and say, I'm in the wrong job. Am I passionate about my job? No. Is my job making the best use of my skills and abilities? No. Am I having fun in my job? No. Recast yourself. You can. And make sure that when you have a dialogue with your boss about your engagement and your performance, that you're talking about what engages you the most and what might be disengaging you. And then you rebalance it. I climb because I love getting to the summit, but I also climb because it's an athletic journey. And I wrote The Virtual Manager. Ironically, I was about 6 weeks from when it was due, and I'd spent all my time on Building a Magnetic Culture, my first book, which became the bestseller. So I called Career Press, the publisher of The Virtual Manager, and I said, I'm moving my family, I'm prosecuting my former accountant for felony theft. That's a story of engagement or disengagement. I said, can I have a couple extra weeks to write The Virtual Manager? Nope, you agreed to September 15th. So I had to cancel my climb of Mont Blanc in France. I still flew to Zermatt, and every morning I got up at 5 and I started hiking, which is what I love to do. And I brought a memo pad with me, and I'd take notes about what that chapter would be about. I'd write a chapter a day, and I'm happy to tell you that The Virtual Manager was submitted to my publisher on September 14th, one day early. So this book about virtual management was written virtually, which makes me smile. What better way to write a book? This is my first 7th summit, the top of Africa. My guide on that climb was a gentleman named Sierra. He is to my, my left. I'm on the left. He goes, I teach you one word that gets you to Uhuru. I said, what's Uhuru? Uhuru, top of Africa, means freedom. Is that amazing? In Swahili, means freedom. The top of Africa is freedom. That is awesome. I said, what's the word? He said, pole. I said, what does that mean, Sierra? He said, pole means slowly, slowly. Your ascent of the mountain of virtual management and virtual engagement will be a journey. Do it slowly. You're not going to reach the summit overnight. One step ahead of the other. Pole, pole, pole. And one last piece of advice, and any of you that have questions about any of what I covered today, feel free to email me at kevin@kevinsheridanllc.com. And I'd like to close by sharing one last little tidbit from my Graham, who made it to age 91. She was a pistol. During one of our cocktail hours, I said, Graham, I'm just curious about something. You know, you're almost 92 years old. I've heard a lot of the downsides of getting old. I've heard about the arthritis and the memory lapses. Graham, are there any upsides to getting old? And she paused, took a sip of her scotch, and she said, there's a lot less peer pressure. They're all dead. I get it, Graham. My grandmother never said goodbye to anyone. What she would do is raise her left hand and say, have fun. I hope you had fun during this. I certainly did, and I encourage you to ensure that your employees are having fun in their jobs. Have fun.
All right, that was great, Kevin. I did ask some folks if they had questions before this, and we're not going to be able to answer all of them. But if you got a couple of minutes, can I rattle off some questions that came from folks about this
Sure.
topic? So one is remote roles. You know, they're becoming more popular, obviously, and people are having exposure to them that never worked from home before. But if you're a manager, you're an employer, some roles lend themselves to being virtual, while others are much more difficult. I mean, someone's got to, you know, tend the shop and actually be there. So how does a manager sort of navigate that? You know, some people have had a taste of it and want to stick to this remote flexibility, but it just may not be possible, you know.
Well, there are scores of jobs, Keith, that will not, it just functionally cannot be done remotely. You know, let's say, you know, half of my clients were in healthcare, so I'm no stranger to hospitals or health systems. I mean, if I'm a nurse in the ICU at a hospital, I'm going to bring my critically injured patient home with me. Not going to happen. Right. So certain jobs, maybe it's a hybrid. Maybe I let that nurse spend one day a week at home working on paperwork. You know, to the extent that you can accommodate a virtual role, it makes sense. But certainly some jobs just cannot be done virtually. Then you have the other situation where the job is completely telecommutable. I'll invent a word. Right. As an author, I get to do that. Yeah, and but unfortunately, you have an old school manager that doesn't want people working from home. I wrote a blog about it, how to school your old school manager in letting you work from home, showing them and illuminating their perspective so they're not the old school saying, I need to see you to manage you, and liberating them from that mindset so that you're able to work from home. I blogged about it. Hopefully it'll work for you. I'm actually hired as a consultant to give consulting to those old school managers. And Keith, you want to laugh out loud. I was that person. It took a millennial to say, hey, dude, do you trust the people that work here? And I said, I do. And it was Ashley, the candy question lady. She goes, if you trust them, let go. And I put in my book, and I have let go. And now I, ironically, am the biggest proponent on the planet for virtual work. Interesting. Yeah, I can see that. And then the hybrid, I think, is an interesting concept, because what we're hearing is, you know, folks are missing the office too, right? So, you know, some folks want to be in the office and have that camaraderie, but they also want the flexibility to be at home when they need to. And so a lot of folks are saying the hybrid is actually preferred over, you know, being in the office all the time or being home all the time. We're hearing exactly that. You know, you talk about, you know, Reagan, you know, I sort of noticed this, you know, trust but verify. Are you, you know, when you think about activity versus production, and you know, in some roles, like a sales role, it's obvious what the production is, and some are a little bit more difficult to ascertain, you know, what the production is for a certain role. But, you know, assuming that you can identify activity measures versus production measures, how much are you weighing each as a virtual manager? You know, is it the number of calls
the number of meetings are important, or it doesn't really matter as long as they're producing? How do you think about activity versus production?
You need to look at outcomes. What are your desired outcomes? I don't care if somebody's working 17 hours a day. They may just be spinning their wheels or, on a hamster wheel. I want to know, what did they accomplish? What are the outcomes? So it's not the busyness or the number of hours. And frankly, to be honest with you, this was another outgrowth. I had some employees, after Ashley told me to let go, that would literally come into the office for 3.5 hours. And then they go off to Millennium Park and have ice cream or go fly a kite. And you know what? I don't care. Go have fun. Go to the health club. As long as I got what I wanted, who cares?
And did you see engagement go up? I'm assuming you did.
I will tell you, Keith, I am so proud that when I sold my company, oh, well, you'll laugh at this. So I'm an engagement consultant, right? So I'm an expert on employee engagement. Right. You want to know what the results were to the first employee engagement survey I did at HR Solutions? 1 percentile, the first percentile. That's not the 99th. Yeah. The only client that scored lower than my company, and we are supposed to be experts on engagement, was the largest for-profit prison in the United States.
Oh man, okay.
Yeah, I started to cry, but like anything, I embraced the feedback. And I'm proud to tell you that when I sold my company 19 years later, we were at the 93rd percentile, best in class. Wow. Yeah, I did 18 employee surveys in those 19 years, and I'm proud of it. Wow. And did some of the feedback hurt? Yeah, like when somebody said, when Kevin thanks people in an email, he just writes THX. If he really cared about us, he'd take the time to write out the word. And I'm like, initially I'd get angry, and I'm like, that's the most ridiculous comment. So I brought up at the next staff meeting, well, apparently at least one of you doesn't feel I'm sincere when I thank you because I just say THX. You have my commitment that going forward from today on, I will take the time. Now, most of the people in the room are rolling their eyes like, who's the idiot that made that comment? And you know what I did with please going forward? PLS.
There you go. There you go.
Have fun.
Yeah.
But I embraced the feedback. They knew they were heard.
You sign all your emails, have fun. I've noticed that.
That's Graham.
Yeah. I've just got one more that came up when I asked folks about this topic. In terms of being engaged and asking people about what they want, I've heard some managers they're almost afraid to hear what folks want, because whether it's career-wise or what they're looking for, it may not be at that company, but they may be great workers, but with their aspiration may not fit what the manager can offer them as a next step.
That's just reality. And the best thing you could do is communicate with honesty. And if indeed the expectation is something you cannot fulfill, just say, I understand that's what you aspire to. And just to be frank, we're not going to be able to make that available here. Yeah. And is there something else that we could potentially do to retain you as a great employee or help you with your long-term transition? Yeah. Okay. No, that's great. There was actually just one more clarification I saw on a slide. It said 82% of Fortune 500 companies make allowances or policies for remote employees. What kind of allowances and policies was that referring to? I mean, that could be full-time work from home. It could be part-time work from home. It could be letting people come and go as they please. Okay. Which I finally just let happen because I was getting the outcomes that I wanted. Yep. Okay. Well, perfect. I really appreciate your time. That was great. Perfect topic at the perfect time, and the perfect person to give it. So we thank you. This is going to go out to a lot of folks, and I know they'll really appreciate this. And like Kevin said, if you've got questions, please follow up with him. You guys will be getting this over email. So Kevin will be copied on that email, and you can reach out to him as well. And thanks again. This is Hot Topics in HR, hosted by Murray Resources, and we really appreciate it. Thanks, Kevin. Have fun. All right.